Zach, are you okay? You look lost.
I'm currently fumbling over my cinder deck and debating killing myself before I go to work tomorrow. So,
Well, your first issue was actually playing Syndra.
bro,
Like,
Yeah,
dude, I'm
I,
so fucking lost on Singapore.
your
I'm
s-
about to pay somebody to test with me to figure out what the fuck to play.
your second issue is not killing yourself on the live stream because that would be a lot of good ways to get
dude,
views.
honestly,
So
This is Breakpoints. Welcome to the show. I'm Sam. We've got Taylor. I don't actually know the order of us pointing. But Taylor, Vero, and Zach on my screen. um, if you guys haven't seen us before, there'll be a link to our socials and everything below. Zach here streams 3 days a week. A couple of us are on the card guys, and everyone knows who Vero is. We don't need to really link any of this stuff.
Great. Don't link Vero's stuff. I think he's made enough of his name just in the YouTube chat of all the live streams.
what? Okay, wait, hold on. Can you actually elaborate that?
Oh, dude, every single time I open a live stream, it's just Vero trolling somebody. Like, does everybody remember the Victor super favored into Kasai matchup? And then, like, the entire chat is just, like, roasting him alive because Kasai ends up winning the game off of a Victor punt. Like, that is, like, a core Vero moment for me as long as I live.
Oh, actually, I have another one. I top 8 Atlanta, and I just remember I went back and watched the VOD to like learn, and the top comment I saw was another Crawford that's not Nathan top 8s again, and I was like, okay, I'll take that one.
That's pretty good, actually. That's good. But yeah, so this is Breakpoints. Kind of first getting us started off. We all went to Nats in Vegas this past weekend. Three of us ended up bringing the good old gravy bones, and one of us brought Syndra. Guys, how'd your weekends go?
I just thought we were going over like what cool YouTube moments you guys have. I guess it's none for all of us. Like, really, that tracks. But I played Gravy, kind of haphazardly. I just like everything was boring, and I thought the game sucked. And then New Heroes came out, and it was like the only one that looked cool. And obviously, I played Jeremiah for like ever when that was out. So I just started doing it, and it was like I was like, oh, this deck's like really good, but like I definitely don't have enough time to like play what should be the best. But then I kind of just stopped caring about that because the other decks were boring Rift decks that I wanted to like blow my brains out. So I just brought Gravy, and honestly, my list was like 3, maybe 4 cards different than Shakers. I mean, I didn't have $3,000 worth of Fables, but other than that, it was like pretty much like the same concepts: Ally Suites, like very slow Boomer Gravy, as I call it, Flying Highs, all that. And
Yeah.
it was fun. It was good. My first 2 rounds, I came into Syndra. I was able to beat one of them, and then rallied up, was 7-2 at a point, punted a draft game, and which sucked. So I usually pride myself in draft, and then lost to a Ranger and got my compass blown up in turn 2, and then I just said like 8-4 or whatever, 8-5. I'll just cut my tournament there. But the deck was fun. It was the one time in Fab I actually like didn't care to lose and was like actively learning while like playing the games, while losing the games. Whereas like normally I'm playing Azalea or something and just like, wow, this game was stupid. I didn't do anything and I won, or I didn't do anything and I lost. So overall, it was pretty fun.
Yeah,
That's one of the best parts of what I feel about playing Gravy. There's the decision trees go just absolutely crazy. The gold on the board lets you make like some really just degenerate decisions sometimes. You're like, I'll rip like 3 gold, and if they're all blues, I'm gonna actually like end the game. So that's kind of my experience with Gravy. Is just like one of the most fun decks and one of the most complicated decks I feel like they've ever released. Taylor, how was your weekend?
well, I had a great weekend with the guys. The Fab side of it was absolute shit. Which is fine, like the prep and everything. We had the new hero and all that fun stuff. So, round 1, I sit across from a Vincent. Uh, I have a great start. He has a great answer to it. I don't want to go into details. It was a good handshake at the end of the game. We had a great time. Round 2, I got to play against the great Aggroblaze 96, and it was the most angry I've ever been at Zach in a game of Flesh and Blood.
What
Usually,
exactly did to you?
so he just like rolls me. He's on Syndra. I'm on Gravy Bones. We have a pretty good list. Me and Sam, I think, played the same 80 or like 79 or something. And I'll never forget this. So he's just rolling me. He's getting massive. He's drawing cards, and I have like 1 ally left. I have 1 card in hand after I've done blocking. He looks at me, he goes, and there's like 3 or 4 people behind us watching because, you know, people like to watch the 0-1 bracket.
Which is big.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
big for a
Yeah,
fab
yeah.
crowd, by the way. Big. This is big for a fab crowd.
And he looks at me and he just goes, I think I misplayed this turn. And I look down, it's 31-7. And I just want to reach over and just tell him to fuck himself, you know, but I can't because there's people behind me. I'm
You
just like,
should
oh.
have. I would have been bothered zero. And if they said
I would've
something,
called
I'd
the
have told
judge.
them to fuck themselves, that we're friends and
I-
that's how it is.
I would have called a judge.
Bro, hey.
Judge.
So after the game, he's like, "Oh, how do you feel about this?" I was like, "Don't talk to me. I don't want to ever see you again. Don't ever meet your heroes. It sucks. They're absolute dicks." You know, I was like, I've known Zach for I think 3 or 4 years now. Just
They
a
really
dick.
need to upgrade that saying. They need to upgrade that saying to choose better heroes, but continue.
Yeah. After that, I play against a Florian. He just has all the trees in the world on like turn 3 and just destroys me. I shake his hand. I go to the blackjack table. I lose about $700 in about 15 minutes. I decide that's a day for me. Go Taco Bell, drink a lot with Sam. And that was my weekend.
Taco Bell Cantina.
Cantina.
Yeah. Let's not get it twisted. It
Yeah.
was.
I don't want. I don't want people to think we're poor on episode 1.
Let me-
This is a Taco Bell Cantina.
But
To be specific.
I will say though, Sam did hit me with the best quote of the weekend though. We are going to Taco Bell, and I was like, "Hey, what are you getting?" And he looks at me, and he says, "Fucked up," and he just, I was like, "That's not what I meant," but I guess we're here.
For those who aren't aware, at the Taco Bell Cantina, they've got like what is essentially like a yard marg for sale, but you can get it with just like Baja Blast and like 4 shots of vodka. It's awesome.
That sounds
For the
amazing.
sake of this podcast going forward, not to be confused with TC, this is TBC, Taco Bell Cantina, not Taylor Crawford. So we can shorten that just so the dialogue isn't as long. TBC. Not the Burning Crusade, but Taco Bell Cantina.
Oh man.
Now that that's continue. Now that that's settled.
So Sam, how was your weekend?
So I had a really fun time playing Gravy. This deck is the most fun I've had playing Fab in a while. I kind of was attracted to Gravy because it's like a similar-ish idea on the surface to what Enigma was, but I think in reality it plays very, very differently. And I think I was talking to Brody about it on the weekend, and he says it reminds him of playing Vincent, Dash.io, and Dromite all in one hero, and I think that's a really good way to encapsulate how complicated and also how versatile this deck is. It's awesome.
And also how high Brody was at the time of the statement.
But anyway, my Nats run went pretty good. I can't complain too much. It was pretty unfortunate when Aaron and I got paired up in the first pod of day 2, so only one of us was going to get even the chance to top 16 at that point, which was probably not the highest chance for us regardless. I think we both ended up pretty short. I think Aaron ended up about 30th, and I finished 81st. Not too bad, I think, for my first Nats run. I'll take it. The biggest thing that I took away probably from the weekend was that you cannot fatigue this Gravy deck if, like, you have any idea that it's coming, and that if you will play Midas Touch against this deck, it's like the freest win of your life. I had my Humperdinck, he had Midas touched in the very last round of Swiss, and I had 15 gold, and I took a turn where I cracked, I believe, 10 of that gold, and shot off on a Conqueror of the High Seas into a Humperdinck and swing it. It's just like insane value. But I also posted up like a kind of like a tournament report as well. If any of you guys are interested in actually reading more about the weekend, but we don't need to go into too much detail here.
So you lost, right? Zach, what happened with you?
I mean, I'll take Vero's answer. I lost. I poetically finished 96th. The first thing that somebody said to me is you should have been Aggroblaze 1 right after we learned that I finished 96, which was pretty funny. I don't know. Cinder was an okay pick. I shit the bed in draft day 1 and just could not pull it together mentally day 2 and just had a really bad day 2. I think 1 and 3 in CC. What'd you say?
I said or today.
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly though, Yeah, tonight's stream was rough.
For our Patreon subscribers, you will see what I'm talking about when Zach couldn't pull it together next time on the behind the scenes with this podcast name to be edited in by AI because I don't know it right now. Zach, continue.
No, I mean, so it was fine. I finished 96th. A little disappointed after such a good finish at London, but it's cards and I played badly, so that's how it goes sometimes.
Oh, I wish Taylor would have shown you that picture I found for you. I wish I could.
Dude,
pull it up on stream right now.
I was gonna send it to him, but I was like, no.
It's
not
such a good picture.
Why
But
didn't
it's
you send it to me?
continue.
Well, now you have to send it to me.
I
and
will,
you
I
have to
will.
post it for everybody available so they can see it.
Yeah, if it could be like a all at once reveal on the screen for both the audience at home, maybe singular people.
It's just
who
gonna
are
be the
watching,
thumbnh.
but-
It's just gonna be the
yeah.
thumbnail, but it's gonna be
Oh,
like
okay.
the faces of Vero and Zach.
Bring it on, dude. I'm here for it.
We're kind of bringing it back home a little bit. Syndrome over the weekend, I think, had a 17% win rate at US Nats, which is like crazy bad. I think that might be exaggerating. I don't think it was that bad. It was the 17% conversion of it all.
Yeah,
Syndrome
buddy, I was
day
saying,
two conversion.
Syndrome
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have a 17% win rate. She had a-
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking of. The 17% conversion rate of day
Yep.
two. Yeah. And then the win rate was bad. It was like 40%, but it wasn't the 17. That'd be insane. Anyway. 17% conversion is honestly just pretty terrible. I think the best conversion rate was it was Victor at like 67 and Verdance I think at 58. If I remember correctly. Well, which way better, even though sample size on Victor is far lower. And they're kind of considering Victor even going forward into Singapore. How have you felt about that?
Going forward to Singapore with Victor, like going where in Singapore specifically?
the Taco Bell
the town
Cantina.
the town center, the Taco Bell Cantina, wherever you can get green cards. Like, where specifically are we going with Victor?
I mean, I've been testing Victor for Singapore, and I think you have a slew of decent matchups and like a couple of favored ones, but I think you have two matchups that are very, very uphill and that are very, very bad. I think Verdance is honestly unwinnable as Victor. I've tried about 7 different variations of the deck, and if it's going to be done, I don't know what's going to have to happen. And then Gravy Bones is unfavored, but it's like fine, I guess. If you're playing all of the Go Again and you're playing some tech cards, it can be okay, but it's still unfavored in an uphill battle. So, I mean, if you're going to Singapore and you're looking to, not 0-3 drop, I would not take Victor. Like, I've completely stopped testing the deck for Singapore. So,
I just can't believe Victor was a bullet point, but continue.
So
this was like a segue, an ad lib, if you will. But
says the guy who gave me the OG
Bring it
Victor
around.
tech back in the day.
that's true. That's true.
bringing it back home a little bit. So if we're not considering Victor. What do you think you want to change about Syndra if you want to bring that going forward, as opposed to like what happened at Nats, the kind of like train wreck, for lack of a better phrase, that was Syndra's overall performance?
So, I mean, I don't know. It's weird because like Cinder's winning multiple nationals and she's doing, well in like multiple other countries. Even like, she won Canada's nationals, I believe. And so like she's doing well and like having good conversion rates and percentages. And like day 1 of nationals, I went 4-1 playing Syndra. My only loss was to Prism. And I punted the game away. So I should have won all my games.
4-1's impressive. I mean, that's like locked for day 2. I mean, that's like locked for top 8 of Yugoslavia in that. So.
Dude, I know, right?
That's-
Exactly.
you
See,
know,
Vero
so-
gets it. He knows where I'm at.
It's one of those things where I don't do the America best Nats bit as just to piss people off. That's like my main point of doing it. But I think the one thing I dislike about Nats, and this is not to take credit away from anybody, is that like you play like almost like, depending on the Nats, of course, like 1/3 of your games in CC, and then you could just be locked for the top 8 like after the draft portion, sometimes leading directly in.
Yep.
And I do think it leads to some imbalance of results. Obviously, players still need to be good and need to win in the top 8 and what have you. And obviously, some Nats are small, some Nats are big, whatever. But I only say that the US Nats gives a really good picture, a really good view of the landscape. It's just that like there's just so many rounds. Like you have to play, was it 9 rounds of CC? Like that is a big
Yes.
sample size. Whereas like I was cheering for Mr. Shantz the whole weekend. I told everybody Kasai was really good this week going into the nationals. You could check that on the Everything app. But like he was 3-0, and I think he was like 6-1, 7-1 by the time like draft was done. He was just like locked for top 8 like almost immediately. Once again, 'cause he's a GOAT, he went on and like 6-0'd in like CC anyway. But like even that is just like you could sit there in the first 2 rounds, go 2-1, maybe 3-0, get some lucky pairs, and just like 5-1, 6-0 draft, which of course takes skill. But then like you just get into the top 8 and then like anything happens. So I always find it weird that the LL points given out for nationals. But I mean there's nothing like anybody can really do about it per se. Like you can't just like spawn 90 players to throw into the bracket. So I do think it's interesting that Syndra won a lot, and I do think it is a good deck. And to go into your overall point of why the deck sucked in the US, I think Gravy was not as prominent as it was in maybe other tournaments, so it didn't have as many quote unquote buys. I think Florian is still like somewhat rough for Syndra, depending on if you're going Mom and Mopple and all that stuff. And that was considered a good deck going into that tournament, which I think has drastically changed over time. And then I think Syndra just does have a lot of bad matchups into decks that just are maybe less brought up until this week. Things like Slippy, Dio, Vincent was still pretty highly repped, things like that, where Syndra just generally just doesn't have a great matchup into those decks. And you're just more likely to see those over 9 rounds with 3, 4, 500 players. And of course, I mean, I think the statistics say that our country is mildly not all right. So probably just most US players suck. But and I don't think I mean I know like not many strong players are on Syndra. I mean Zach was playing it, for example. So it was just like
He just had to say it, didn't he?
You just don't know who's playing these heroes. There was a lot of people playing them. But I don't think if you name me 10 top players just off the top of your head in the US, I don't think a single one of them was playing Syndra. So some of that leads into it. And then also just the uncertainty of going into US Nats and who knows what was happening. Going forward, I do think Syndra is still a good deck. And I think we are in the triad cycle of, Dromai, Icelander, Oldhim thing, where like Dromai could beat Icelander and Oldhim, but all these fives would show up who just really wanted like 27th place. So they would just destroy every Dromai, and then Oldhim and Icelander would win every tournament. And like one time they think, you know what, maybe the belittle band meant something. Maybe I won't show up with this deck. And like Dromai would win, but then it would never get top 8 because it still sucked. And then, Dromai and Icelander would win anyway. And then a Fi would come back, and like we were just in that cycle for a while until Baltimore, where Lexi was just too good for anybody to realistically bring Fi, and then obviously we all know the story of that. So I'm expecting a little bit of that with Gravy, Syndra, and Verdansk kind of going forward. Not that those 3 are like the same decks or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you feel like Syndra is that big of a foil into Gravy?
Yes and no. The problem with Syndra into Gravy, in my opinion, is that like some like 1500 elo player can just show up and beat anybody on the deck. Like if you draw like mildly poorly enough with Gravy and they just like 4-4-4-4 3-3-3-3 flick the whole time, like you could totally just lose games to players you would consider to be quote unquote weaker than you, whereas if you were playing a more stable deck, you'd outplay them because there's more decision points and yada yada yada. But I do think constructing a proper Gravy deck, and this is no shot at Jacob or anybody who played it, but most slits at US Nats, I think we can all agree now, just are fundamentally bad in when you look at it like holistically and what you need to be. And this is like no shot at Jacob or anybody else who did well. Like their decks were the best you could come up in a week and a half and $1,500 in like drug money to Mall the day before. Like this is the best you could do. But
100%.
So it's but now like you saw Brody's list with 8-9 Tipples. Yuki has her version with like 20-ish reds that come in and out and do like aggressive plans. And I think those matchups aren't that bad. I still think, I mean, the data says it's like a 30% matchup, which I kind of agree with. I do think there are things that people are just not playing in their deck or macro strategies they have wrong. And it's weird to say a macro strategy because you think like the game's going to go like relatively quick, but even still, like there are just some heuristics you need. So I don't think it's like super cursed. I think I'd still rather play Dio. I'd still rather play Prism. I'd still rather play Ira. More so hopefully in the future with Edge of Autumn and less so with Kadachi's. Because the problem with Syndra is it's just very linear in what it does. It was the same way that generally, for a point, Syndra was good until new, because like, oh, you took one card, cool, they're still going to throw 9 to 12 at you. Whereas like, you take one card from a Dio or a Brute or something, maybe their whole hand falls apart. And it's kind of similar in that way with Gravy. Those decks have more bricks, your disruption's more useful, etc., etc. So I don't think the matchup's as bad as people doom on. I think they're just A, not used to playing a board state hero, and B, just aren't as good as they think they are and sequence poorly. But I do think it's still unfavored, of course.
Yeah.
So talking about this like weird like triangle you were just referencing, Vero, and we're gonna like I know this isn't really like one of the points, but I want to harp on this for a second. How do you feel like this triangle like affects the entire meta? Like if you're not one of the three decks in this like triangle that we're talking about where Syndra like sucks, but she still like fits into this triangle somehow, how are you outside looking in to try and like attack the entire triangle?
Well, like I said, I don't think the triangle is completely analogous to the one mentioned previously because I don't think really any of the decks inside of it are as strong. But to make it somewhat digestible, like Verdansk is the deck that I think it's really interesting if you look at its win rate. It's like 58% win rate. I'm citing all nationals here, so callings and other things. I don't really care. I'm just citing all the nationals. It's like a 58% win rate over like roughly 400 to 500 games, and it's very interesting if you look at it because if you tech a little bit, I think you can make Verdansk very good into Syndra, and by very good I mean like maybe 50-50. Excuse me, 45%, something like that. And then gravy matchup, depending on who you ask and who you talk to, and how much AB your gravy presents. I have like tortured testing teammates and other people who've like, oh, this matchup's here. I'm like, oh, they're like, oh, go play him, and I'm like, I have to like crawl out of bed and like tell my wife that some people on the other side of the earth need to play test against me, and then I'll just like 5-0 people on gravy and like playing Verdansk, and then they have a shifted perspective in the matchup. I do think there are ways for Verdansk to like degenerately tech. You could throw in like 3 Call of the Graves and grab Ring of Roses on turn 0, plume it back, and like that's your chance. But then you still need to really decompose after that. But you know, you can get a Ring of Rose early. You can play like 9 Fruits of the Forest, turbo decompose. There's like plenty of strategies you can do as Verdansk to try to insulate to the gravy plan. But ultimately it's and then you'd always have to warp your deck. It's like pretty unfavored. So it's weird. But then like I said, you look at every other matchup, like she has a like 93.7 or something percent win rate into Florian. It's like 2 and 26 out of all national games played. Like she just farms Florian. You look at like, I think it's like Dio is like borderline on win bowl. Vincent's like 3 and 27 or like some just ridiculous numbers for Verdansk. And she's propped up a lot there. So like people like, oh, Verdansk Prism. Like I think Verdansk is favored into Prism. People won't believe that. But I can definitely tell you it's not 30-70 like it says personally.
Yeah.
But so like she's good into like almost everything else. The Kano matchup's weird, depends who you ask, depends if just tempo moon them to death. You tempo moon the Kano, they die, whatever. I mean, Kano numbers are always weird based off player skill, but I think Verdansk is like just good into everything else. But you're like somewhat weak into Syndra and you're like really bad into Gravy. Gravy, on the other hand, good into like every other mid-range pile. You absolutely destroy them. You dog walk Verdansk, in my opinion. But you obviously have the worst time with Syndra, and it's not like just Syndra. There's also like analogous decks to Syndra, whether it's like Hatchet Story or whether it's really Ira or even Fi. Technically, I've never played that one too much, but like Dio can be scary because they can just explode on you, things like that. So that's where Gravy is like weak in that respect. So if you wanted to attack that, obviously, if you're going for these level 2-ish decks, level 3, whatever you want to call them, depending on which game you come from, you need to pick 2 of the 3. And I think Dual Wield Warrior is probably the best for that right now.
So you said something that I think was really interesting. You talked about exploding on people. Can you expand on that? What can we do to explode on more people? I'm open to thoughts here.
Well, yeah, I can tell by the picture behind you. You do very little exploding. Just more of like a sensual handholdy thing. But no, yeah, I mean, you know, you see it. Dio has that, Fang has that, Acilio has that. You just have these degenerate aggro decks that can just do like 25 plus damage on a turn, and you only got to do it once against somebody like a Gravy who's generally trying to get incremental value. Has a few turbo turns, but not as consistent. But those are examples of decks that can explode on somebody, if you will. And then, yeah, I think the ways to, you know, like I said, Hatchet Dory / Kasai, I think it's an interesting way to beat 2 out of 3. The problem is that Verdansk matchup's kind of rough. I think maybe Hatchet's Story is better than Kasai into Verdansk because Hatchet's Story can be made a little more aggro slanted than Kasai is currently. That's conjecture there. Other decks that I think can target it, some degenerate Brute / Guardian can maybe do it. I don't know what that list needs to look like. And then ultimately, Prism is the deck to do it. The problem is you're playing Prism, and it's a hard deck to play, and it fails on itself an amount of time. But I think in general, you should be somewhat 50-50 into Verdance. The Gravy matchup is favored, but not as favored as people think, but it's still like should be in your favor. It's more easy for you to win. That's the best way I could put it. And then Sindra Prism is Sindra Prism. If somebody shows up, they don't have enough poppers, they don't see him, they don't understand like the matchup, you blow them out with Calming Gesture on the flick. Like there's just a bunch of interactions there. So those would be my decks if you want to target it, but I don't quite think the meta is quite there yet. I don't think it's exactly this triangle that I had linked to in previous metas. I don't think it's exactly that quite yet. I also have no clue why you're asking me, but go on.
Anybody jump in. Let's go. You brought it up, so we asked you. Dude, go ahead. Taylor, why do you think the triangle doesn't work?
Oh no, I think it does work. I've been in Fab for long enough, and I know like how the triangle meta works. Like I understand like the issue is like you have a triangle meta, and then you have like the 1-2 deck, which is like the Lexi Dromai situation, which is like the worst situation you can have in Fab other than like a Starvo or Zen. Because and as long as we have a triangle-esque meta, I feel like I'm happy to go to a tournament. Maybe I do believe that there are too many viable decks, which is kind of annoying from a competitive standpoint. I'm thinking about Dio, I'm thinking about Slippy, I'm thinking about all these decks that aren't relevant, that are going to be 3% of the meta. But like I can get paired into Ocilio, which is doing War Crimes, which is he's like doing like 10 damage, then 45, which is just like not fun for anybody. Well, but then everyone's like, oh, bring CNC, bring Conqueror as a gravy player. But like at the same time, I was playing Rigor Mortis. You're going to shock me. I'm going to cuss, and we're going to throw hands at the situation. So it's just like there's so many heroes that are committing war crimes to the meta that is supposed to be a triangle meta. It's just it's hard to actually prep a sideboard for everything. So I think that we are like a little over encumbered regarding the number of heroes that are playable, which is a really interesting thing. Is like I don't care if there's 50 heroes. I just want there to be 7 playable ones, and not 23. But that does mean that they are designing the game well enough that they are, their number equation for every hero is working at at some point. But it's just like it makes it so hard to go to a tournament and not feel like you're losing to RNG every week. It's like, oh wow, Dash IE still exists and can still kill you. And it's like I didn't think about this at all. I don't have sideboard room for item hate, stuff like that.
IE might be a little bit of a stretch, but I understand.
I mean, yeah, you never know. I mean, they throw over Hanabi Blaster and they can still kill you with Pounder.
I think you make a really valid point because, like, you talk about, like it being too open from a competitive standpoint. And I think that at a certain point, it causes tension for, like, the organized play scene and, like, your competitive players who are looking to prep for a bigger event. It's tough because you have to pack some sideboard cards, hope you cover enough, and then try to get there. And if you just get RNG'd all day, then it feels really bad. But as a casual player, when there's 30 playable heroes and some of them cost $200, it's amazing, right? You're like, oh my God, I love this game. I can play this $200 hero forever because it's playable right now. Like, why would I not do this? So,
Speaking of war crimes, did we see the news recently?
Whoa.
The Ira Armory deck.
Oh, okay.
Yo. All right.
Good. That was a hot segue, though.
Yeah, it was.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Have you seen that helmet? You just like discard a card and get a Blossoming Mistblade. You can like discard a Sea Legs. You can discard a Fiddler's Green, live fiddling on the rooftop all 9 of them. It don't even matter. You just discard cards, get value, and then like whirling Mistblade people. So I think that's really cool. And then the gloves are like breaking scales, except you have to pay with a katana.
Whoa.
Which I've seen in like that Blade Runner movie or something.
You can retrace the past.
We found the sickest combo earlier. You won't believe this. Hot tech coming to you fresh.
So what we found out is you can name Retrace the Past, naming Edge of Autumn, then use the arms to flick your own Retrace the Past and just pass your turn. And that might be the strongest thing that Katsu can do right now.
Well, ever since US Nats, it's probably the strongest thing Katsu could do. That checks out.
Yeah. Because, like, nothing was worse. Like, I'm a Katsu guy, so nothing was worse than watching Katsu's play that weekend, and I'm just like, I don't
You
know.
could just say you could just say you're a guy. We don't really
Yeah.
need extra adjectives. Most people know.
Okay. And like I'm watching these people play Katsu, and I'm just like, does this hero suck, or are these people just really bad? And I've been thinking about that for the last couple of weeks, and I think he's
You
just
hear
really
that?
bad.
If Katsu was what you were playing and you saw Taylor Hogan run your table, he thinks you're trash.
Dude,
You heard
I,
it here first.
My
I keep
takeaway
saying
from
that.
this too.
If you didn't already feel awful for playing at table 476, you now had this
It's
strong in stature man standing behind you, and now you
It's-
should feel worse.
It's so funny because I say that, but like me and Aggroblaze were playing, and the game to our right, they looked at me and they're like, "Oh, it's a Katsu mirror," and I don't
Literally.
mean y'all two. I mean someone else I stood behind. Okay, not you two, not you two.
But yeah, no, I think the Iron Armory deck stuff was cool. I don't know why they decided to spoil that today, but I'm glad they did because, I mean, I know the High Seas debacle was a thing, but how close we got with Gravy Bones, like I'll just say it. LSS does things, and nothing I say will really change that. But when people felt pressure just not to start ripping open boxes and just jamming potato screenshots on the internet, it's like, okay, maybe show our people some more stuff a little bit earlier. I know once again High Seas was a thing, but I know many stores were just like, I don't even have like what this deck's gonna look like, and I need to get pre-orders 2 weeks ago. So I'm glad they are starting to show more stuff for the Ira deck, and I hope more stuff comes out soon so people can make an educated purchase for that product. And yeah, because I went to another store today and it reminded me, not today, excuse me, it was it was a few days ago, Saturday, and there's a store that's unfortunately closing in a few weeks. And I walked in and, they're having their going away sales and things like that. We were going for the last few armories. They close in a few weeks, like I said. And there's just still Aurora Armory decks on.
Yeah.
like on the thing. And I know that's not exactly one-to-one as to why I'm saying that you should spoil things earlier. You could have spoiled that deck on the last day and it wouldn't have mattered. But it just reminds me that both the players and stores should just have more info on things like that, because some of them are really good and some of them are Bolton and some of them
It gets
are
worse than
really
that.
good for a month. Yeah, and some of them are really good for a month and then they get a card banned from the deck, and then some of them are really good for about 3.5 weeks and then the whole hero gets banned. So I just think the sooner we know this stuff, the better.
So we're lucky enough to have like a really nice armory scene where I'm at. We have like 3 different stores. We have one like main store.
Okay,
where
I just told you the store's closing. You really don't got to brag, but continue with whatever the segue is.
But this store, we've had armories from, at normal weeks are like 12 people. Sometimes we get up to like 30. It gets like crazy.
That's wild. 30 people is
yeah,
crazy. I would shit a
it's-
brick if there were 30 people at my store on Friday.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's the sickest thing ever. Great
No
community.
bad
But
taste, guys.
anyway, we didn't know what was coming in the Max Armory deck, and said they were doing the pre-order for how many of these they should get, and they ordered, I believe it's like whatever the 3 cases or whatever it is. It's like a 12-pack. They got 3 of them.
A 12
they're-
pack of Natty Ice, and then they also unfortunately sent Max Armory decks. And
Yeah,
that was
so-
the worst purchase of the month.
Yeah, so there are still 35 of them on the shelf at that store.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, that's like one whole armory for you guys.
Hey, if they're selling them for MSRP, I'd buy one. I didn't get one. We got 2 at our store, and that was
Oh, you
it.
want one? Dude, I will literally buy one and ship it to
Yeah,
you.
this ain't the poor Olympics. We'll be fine. So what was your overall point? Your store is great. It's not going out of business like the one I go to, and
I was trying to build on your point of like giving the stores a bit more of a heads up so they don't make the mistake of like not knowing what is in the Max Armory deck, buying 36 of them, and then it's terrible and no one wants to buy it and they're just out.
yeah,
whenever
when my wife
36 of
finally
those things
divorces me, I'm never coming to you for like assurance. Not gonna really dump any baggage on you. Well, yeah, that's really unfortunate. Me and my wife are going to Disney next week alone together for 6 days.
I'll be sure to tell you all about it, and then when we come back, I'll send you like pictures and everything. It'd be great.
I'll hear your laugh from freaking Florida. I'm only like 6 days away. I'll probably hear it.
I do love that though. I'll be like sitting at like table like 48, and you'll be at like
I'll
table
be in the
like,
middle of Taco Bell Cantina.
and I'll just hear him. It like cuts through people. It's actually
Yeah.
insane.
It's
It's
true.
like, it's like the worst judge call you've ever heard, but it's this person, this creature, entity laughing. At some
So my locals say there are like two constants whenever they go to a Bound Lorden or something that's nearby, and one of them is that you'll hear Sam laugh.
Oh yeah.
What's the second one?
We don't need to talk about that.
Wait. You guys like, oh, there's two constants, but here's no. What
There's
is
two
it?
constants, 30 people at her armory.
Yes,
Sam's
yeah.
32 of them.
On all of them. It's just like cacophony of my laugh.
Okay, SAT word.
Oh my god.
Well, yeah, no, our armory deck. Think that'll be cool. We don't have to talk about the not the CYB. They call it the grave ban anymore now that we got confirmation it's leaving. And other than that, we just have this week's nationals to look forward to, which I think we have the governors and I don't know, 7 other countries I'd have to Google and see.
I mean, they've all got to
socialist
run
or
either
something.
this weekend or next weekend, right? So
Yeah, it's the
there's
last
gonna
2
be
weeks,
quite a
I
few.
think. Except for like, I always feel like there's like 6 random countries that like we'll be in like the middle of like August, and I don't know, like there'll be another war breaking out somewhere in the world, and they'll just be like, oh, by the way, there's a nationals this week for this country because we did it.
I can't
And
wait
then
for
they'll throw like a
Nationals, Iran.
WCQ attached to it, and they'll be like, it's welcome to IRA deck. WCQ winner just gets to go to Philadelphia. We thought that'd be cool. They can't afford a deck, but we're sure they can make it to Philadelphia. And so that'll probably happen in like August at some time. But yeah, I think the next 2 weeks are the rest of the nationals. The bigger ones, the ones for non-poors, I think is the UK one is like 130, 160 players roughly, I think it gets to. And then I think the 4th week would probably be Australia/New Zealand, whichever one of the. I always do like the L's with the L, it's like the kangaroos and the up down. Whichever one would probably have more players. I don't know which one. And yeah, I think that's just the next 2 weeks. So this week I'll be excited to see if and how anybody adapts their gravy decks and what other decks comes out of the woodwork. Because we have a lot of very strong players that are going to be playing in the UK now specifically. I mean, you have Pro Tour winners, Pro Tour top 8ers, Nats, obviously previous winners. Calling winners. I mean, you got a lot of really strong players in the UK as well as a bunch of up and comers from particular teams that I won't name. And yeah,
No. You can name drop your team. It's fine. It's fine.
my team. No, I was talking about my team. I was talking about I know the geography of the UK. I was talking about Southampton, guys. You guys wouldn't get it. You don't know the geography of the UK like I do.
Oh, is that
Southampton? Okay.
how it is?
Yeah, it's like Southampton. It's like kind of the same thing. Not demographic wise, just in the way in which they have a lot of talent at Fab.
Okay. I see.
Okay.
I'm fucking idiots.
So regarding gravy, I want to talk about design perspectives. Do you guys think that they nailed high C's? Do you think the power level is where you want it to be? What are your thoughts on it? And what are your thoughts on Miss Vale finally leaving?
I'll take a rip at it first.
Yeah, go.
So,
Please.
I think all of us are a little bit disappointed with 2 of the heroes. I think it feels like Marlin is like missing probably 2 cards from being like an actual real deck once that dealer's gone. And right now that dealer deck is like quote unquote real as it is because why would you play that over Azalea? I think that Puffin like has a lot of tools, but the restrictions on creating a cohesive combination of these tools is too great a burden for the deck to perform at a high level. They're like, we worked on that deck, the first few days after it came out and put together a list that we thought was like somewhere near the ceiling of what you could do before Nats and have it still be consistent. I haven't seen any other iterations since then that have made me feel like that deck actually has legs at like a very competitive level. That was one of the decks that Nats, I'm pretty sure, had like a 32% win rate, not conversion
Well,
rate.
at Canada Nats it had very good because they actually made a real deck because they don't have Merrick Kemp on their team. So, but yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
no, they were like
side
3, and
shot.
they were both like. See, I love Maricamp, but Maricamp needs to play more mech, and I still never forgive him for not playing Dash IE during Zen Meta. But that's something that we'll talk about my journal another time. But no, I think the new iterations of Puffin are good. I think they're more boost heavy. I have a few people that I test with external of my team, and they've always had a build very similar to what we saw at Canada Nats. And I think yeah, I think it was Aiden was like 5-1 or something, maybe 4-2, and the other person was 3-0 and just didn't do great at draft, but they were up there, and I think one of them might even had a win in the point. And I think that deck's very interesting. It's actually very hard for Gravy to play against that iteration of the deck, but I think there's something there. But at the end of the day, it is mech. There is
Yeah.
just a big hurdle there with once you throw the boost mechanic back in and you're trying to manage cogs and things like that. But I think that deck is a lot better than people think. I think people just tried playing 32 blue and it was like, I mean, slide tangent. It's why when everybody said Confer was like $100 card, I was like, I think you guys are like stupid because like I think it's literally only good in Gravy, and I think that is coming to fruition. And even then, it's like tanked to like $30-$40 where it should be because like I mean,
Yeah.
you could play 32 blue Puffin or whatever, but I think we all saw how those decks looked.
I think like even the boost decks are still fairly concerning to me because they don't feel like they're as powerful as even Dash IO, and they're not really doing anything special to make me want to play that deck
Yeah, that part.
more so.
Yeah.
If you can find a list that's more resilient and can have that like aggro package out of Puffin, I think it's like it's not like a bad deck. I don't want to like overstate that, the disappointment is that the deck is unplayable. I think all these decks are like casual level, great. Competitive level, probably not a reason to ever take them as they stand. And Gravy is like the complete opposite, where this deck is like impossible to play at like the casual level, I think, without just like oopsing into like the gone hands. The decision trees in this deck are like a lot more complicated than I think most casual players will be able to pick up easily. It's going to take like a lot of reps for most people. Um, and the ceiling on the deck is like I think absolutely absurd. This deck is crazy powerful. Um, I love it. I think it's awesome, but I think that as a whole, the High Seas is a good set with a little bit of varying degrees of success on like where you want these decks to land when it all shakes out.
Yeah. As obviously I said my points there, I agree, but actually I'm like I'm kind of rather disappointed with Gravy, and I don't think the deck isn't strong, but I don't know how you do it, and I'm not saying I had a magical answer, and I'm not saying that maybe there was no other way to do it, but I dislike how, whether intentional or not, from the devs' perspective, they like. I wish the deck was like 10% worse across the board and just had a flatter matchup spread. Obviously, I bought like the whole deck and like blinged it out. I just need like a gold foil hook, and I pretty much have it like max rarity. So like I'm playing it regardless because the same way I played Dromai. And I don't the same way, and in the same way that I play Dromai, I'm used to having these like awful matchups, and there is like some enjoyment and fun in figuring out these like quote unquote like 90-10s, 10-90s. But I do wish the hero is a little more fair across the board because people are going to say, oh, well, Gravy just loses to XYZ, but like it's still a meta warping deck. The same way in which when I played Dromai, it was just like you sat down against like earlier versions of Azalea and like Riptide and things like that, and they could just never win. Certain brute decks could just like never win, even though like, oh, it has poppers, it should win, and it like still just didn't. And Dromai invalidated a lot of decks in that way. Gravy doesn't do it as much, but still does it to a pretty decent degree. And like I said, I just wish it had a more flatter matchup spread around, and maybe it was 5-10% worse. I don't know the exact number you need, but maybe that wasn't possible. Obviously, I don't know. That I think is like the one thing I'm upset about is I just dislike when we're in that way of Fab where there's just too many untenable matchups for certain heroes, and even when you're like seeing it in the worst way, which is Gravy, by seeing like Syndra or Ira or something, like it doesn't like suddenly mean that like, oh well, all these other decks that lose to Gravy you can just play them now, because no, because 15-20% of people are still going to show up at this deck. And I don't know, maybe like as Taylor alluded to before, maybe that's just Fab now. Maybe there is too many viable decks. I don't know. Which sounds like a crazy thing to say because it's not like you want people playing the same 2 or 3 decks. But
Yeah.
it comes down to what you want out of the game, I guess, when you show up to a tournament.
Aggroblaze 69, what's your opinion?
I mean, I think High Seas is a great draft format. I know a lot of people here played in London, and the hunted draft format was a little volatile for me. I don't think it was nearly as bad as everybody complained about it, if I'm being honest. Maybe I'm biased because I went 5-1 in draft at London, but I mean, like, no, I'm not trying to flex. Everybody relax, okay? I don't know, the format didn't feel that bad, but like this format is so balanced. It is so good. There are so many good like just value mid-rangey cards that I think the 2 blocks and the 3 blocks are very well balanced. This draft format is amazing. From a CC perspective, there is almost nothing that intrigues me. I don't like playing Ranger. I've never been a fan of things that add to the board. Much like Sam kind of alluded to, I don't think there's really a reason to be playing Puffin when you could play Dash.io with cards that kind of help you get fatigued less, and like Cog in the Machine and like Dovetail and some other 1-for-5s. Like you basically just get more copies of Zipper Hit. So I don't really see a reason to be playing Puffin. And that's like the one hero that interests me. And I could tell that because I opened the EA arm piece for Puffin and I immediately sold it. I was like, I don't even want to keep this. So I just, stuff like that. I don't know. Like, for me, it missed the mark, but I think overall it's a solid CC like set. And, as long as we're not doing like, Mistvale stuff, I think we're fine.
Yeah, I mean the draft set's good. If I didn't, since I didn't touch on that, yeah, I think the draft set's really good. The drafting process alone, I've hinted out to other people that I think it's a little boring, but at least it's made up for in the gameplay, which I think is super deep and cool.
Yep.
So I like that. I think people who think Puffin sucks and/or is unplayable are monumentally stupid. And
Sorry,
other
Aggro.
expletives I can't say on air. But
Okay.
We're just.
I mean, like everybody's gonna be like, oh look, Aaron was drafting on stream and like had a 1-0 Puffin or a 1-0 Puffin and like lost the first game. It's just like, okay, like yeah, sure, but he like still went like 2-1 and like whatever, like crap happens. Like a teammate of mine was like, I think he drafted like literally Puffin like from day 2 all the way to top 8 because like nobody else wanted to, and he went like, I mean, he made top 8 obviously, so he went like I think he went 6-0 playing it on day 2, and then like lost to our other teammate Jason, who ended up winning it like in the top 8. So I think people just suck. This just reminds me very much of like, oh, Cilio is bad. You can't play a Cilio in draft like Rosetta style, and it's just like I think you guys just all suck because same teammate went literally like 12-1 at rated events in callings and worlds with the hero. I think. So yeah, but shout out to Arsenal Pass for saying it sucks. So I'm sure that was a good psyop. I think Team PCG Pass probably paid them a bunch of money, and now they all got to draft Puffin. And I mean, there was like 17 of them in the top 8 with the Valley of Empires, or so many of them. So good on them. That's how you use sponsorship dollars. And yeah, I think the format's great, and Puffin's still good.
So I can't speak for Sam, obviously, and I know Taylor hasn't said anything, but I don't feel like Puffin sucks. And I feel like if that's what people took away from what I said, then I feel like I either did not explain it very well or it was very misinterpreted. Because I don't think she's
you
bad.
said that? I didn't even know you said that.
No, that's
well, he was just going off a tangent. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like in response.
I thought you were like on this podcast that said it sucked because I mean it would make sense why it was wrong. But okay, continue. Sorry.
No.
No, I don't think that Puffin is like at all unplayable in draft. I think it's super overblown. There are like definitely like certain combination of cards I think you need. I think it's like harder to hit that requirement than the other 2 heroes are. Or at least to it to function as like a 3-0 deck. I think it's a 2-1 deck. It's pretty much the same across the board. Of like you need like a few cards that are important and then you're good to go. Namely, like I'm looking for like those like perk ups early on. I think all of the normal like 3-for-7 on the horizon kind of stuff all fits in it really well, and you have this like backup fatigue shell with the gun that the other classes sort of lack, quote unquote. Moreland kind of is different, but I think that yeah, it's super overblown how unplayable Puffin is in draft. I
Let's
know
go back
that
to what Zach was wrong about. What were you wrong about? Why'd you say it sucked? I don't really care what Sam was saying right now.
I
don't
didn't
know why
say
you...
it sucked. I said
no. Well, Sam said you said he said it sucked, and then you were like going to defend yourself.
I was defending myself in response to what you said because like I thought you were like we were talking about like CC for a minute and we were talking about how like we were talking about Puffin versus Dash.io, and I was saying that I feel like why would you be
can't
playing
play Dash.io Unlimited? Yeah, I know this.
yeah, thank you. Thank
What's
you.
this guy on about?
Dude.
Damn, that's brilliant. I wish I knew that going into Nats.
I can't believe I interrupted Sam to hear something even dumber.
Oh,
But yeah, no, that makes
God.
sense.
Oh,
You know, you should really move that character picture, and it's not because you're ugly and your girlfriend slash wife, I don't know which one, and don't want to offend you, looks amazing. But I can see your whole screen and the disgusting things you're looking at in the reflection.
Yeah, you mean you guys? That's crazy because the only thing I can see in the reflection is Vero over here on the corner. It's wild.
Cool.
So yeah, dude, no,
Yeah.
bothers me
Good
zero.
cover up. That's a very you must work from home. That was a really quick tab change.
You know what's up, dude. You know what's up.
No, honey, I'm just doing the taxes. I'm doing the taxes for my LLC, Aggroblaze 96 LLC.
Joke's
I
on
will
you.
say-
My wife does my taxes, bro. Get out of here.
Wow.
I will say that like I had the same
Chauvinist.
opinion that the 100 drafts was like a little bit overblown with how much people disliked it until I played it in London and I got killed from 10 by 3 dagger reacts and I was like sick.
The Daltini special. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
It felt
I
bad.
loved-
It did. It felt bad.
I loved Haunted because it's like I'm a shit drafter. So it's like if I somehow drafted really well, I could just high roll a better player than
Yeah.
me and just be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened, man. Good game. I'm sorry you just lost like 37 elo to Scrubby McScrubberson over here." Anyway, I'll go play in the calling. Oh, I actually enjoyed London. I actually thought London was a really good tournament. If he didn't bring Zen.
True.
Yeah.
Well, See, like in my defense, I was like the Zen testing buddy for everybody. Who's like, "Oh, Zen's really good," and I was like, "Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deck." And like nobody wanted to play it because of this awful LL rule change system, which I won't get into. Or that same guy who was in my DMs for like 70 or replies for 72 messages will probably find us here. But I just think like the new LL change kind of sucked. So you had everybody on edge. So then like I had to be the testing dummy, and then like other shit was going on in my life. So I was like, well, I just played fucking 700 games of Aurora Zen, so people can beat the shit out of me once the Armory deck came out. I was like, oh, I'm like kind of favored, and the Armory deck came out. It's like, oh, like I'm not really that favored, and then I'm trying to high roll defense. You're trying to high roll offense. It's a whole thing. But so then I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'll bring it. Like it was fine because I was like actually beating Enigma relatively like consistently as well. So that was like cool. And then I was winning a game and I drew 4 chi when my opponent was at 1 and I was at 2 and all they had was 1 card and I lost the game. And
I was like, yeah,
I
didn't your
really
deck
should have
just
dropped
juice you in
then.
London?
yeah, it was so bad at that point. And then I walked into Aurora where I got the actual high side and it was not good. But yeah,
I will say, you know, you kind
yeah,
of
it
like
was fun.
mentioned Arsenal Pass in there a little bit. I think Hayden actually had an awesome idea. It was a few podcasts ago where he was like, let's just not do battle hardens 2 weeks, like in that 2-week window before PTs. So this just doesn't happen.
But
Yeah,
the whole,
like,
but
I think, I don't think that LSS should redo their whole organized play.
That's what I was gonna say, it's like-
Schedule around that. I just think, for an example, in the national season, you can just say, you know, the U.S. has to do it on day 0 because I don't know. That guy might come again and give me a patriotic speech at the beginning of Nats Day 1. I wanted to salute, like, as you know, back in the day.
We
But,
will
like,
persevere.
Yeah, and all that, and inventors and George Edison and yeah, all that. But
Oh my God.
it was like, I don't know why they had to do that to the U.S. to begin with, but you might as well just be like, oh, well, in this little like 4-week window from U.S. Nats to whatever Yugoslavia, just like no heroes can LL like for this like short amount of time. And like, if there's just such a broken hero like that happens out of the blue on week 1 and we got to suffer for 3 weeks, like I don't know, maybe I'm not saying you can't do like an emergency ban in between, like if you have another Zen situation, but like I don't think they should make policy so rigid because of the fact that mistakes might happen, which of course they're constantly learning from. I just think like some type of stasis period, like, hey, if the Pro Tour is July 1st, by June 7th, 3 or 4 weeks before some arbitrary timeline, just say nothing can LL for this amount of time. They will still accumulate points, but they will not LL until the Monday after big tournament, because Zen was like literal nightmare scenario for people. Like people were like getting on their flights potentially as like a Dublin battle harden or something was happening, and that like had ramifications. I know it seems like, oh, this should never happen, as we all said it when it first happened, and then like it totally happened, and it was just like, and I think it's unfair to people who play these decks, and you're coming up to this like timeline, like new as an example, where you're like playing new, practicing, and then all of a sudden Bologna happens, you don't have a hero anymore. And people are like, oh, just play something else. And it's like, well, now you're asking these particular players to do double the work because they have to play 2 decks to a proficient level, which I think is unfair. And then secondarily, you're just like kind of warping and controlling a meta based off of, like, in my opinion, out of game like mechanics. Like the game itself, pricing obviously is a problem too, which I wish we could fix. I can't fix everything, but I don't think outside factors like that should affect what people bring to a tournament, what decks are viable, what the meta looks like. Obviously, regions will have biases and things like that. You can't fix that. But like a deck shouldn't go from 20% to like 10% or something because like a large swath of people are just scared to put time into it because it might go. I don't think that's good for competitive integrity either. And I also think it's just unfair to the players. And Fab, for better or for worse, and I don't think they do it intentionally, has a lot of mechanics / economical things that make the game pretty harsh to players to begin with, more so on their wallet and somewhat on their time. And I just don't think we need more of it. The end.
Oh, it's never the end, but I believe you. For now.
So something I wanted to talk about before we end the podcast was the Las Vegas high seas debacle. I wanted to talk about what happened there. Like, I know they said it was pushed back a week, or the Nats
Pushed up a week.
Yeah, pushed up a week. Well, do we know why?
High Seas was supposed to they said High Seas was supposed to release a week before the week in which it released. So like the week of pre-releases is the week when it was supposed to release. So here's my headcanon, is that they just booked this damn venue and said, okay, like this venue is going to be June 6th or whatever the hell it was. I don't remember what day it was. June 6th. And the set's going to come out May 30th or 31st. I don't know. I don't remember the song to remember how many days there are in a month. And that's just what it was. And then they couldn't do it. So they're like, okay, well, we got to push the release up a week. And we can't reschedule, I mean, I know it's the super, super prestigious, Westgate Hotel, or whatever the heck it's called. But yeah, they just couldn't move it up or back any forward because I'm sure these bookings are done probably a year in advance, if I had to guess, so they just couldn't move it. And so that's just why. I mean, I'm pretty sure he said that almost verbatim, or at least hinted at it in a way. And if you just have ever done venue booking of large scales, you understand these things are done way ahead of time, and shit happened.
Yeah, speaking of Westgate, I heard, Zach, that you had a great time at the Westgate. Can you elaborate? I heard that it was a wonderful, wonderful place.
Bro, is that the Benihana?
Bro, we do not want to go into my Westgate stay. Like,
actually, we're in a podcast.
Well, actually, these last 9 minutes and 72 seconds say we do.
Bro, listen, I will indulge everybody, but let me tell you, I will never stay at the Westgate again. I would sooner sleep on the fucking street and walk to the Westgate. Like, that's dude, I'm telling you, dude, Vero, I had a horrible experience. You can back off, dude.
Could probably eat 2 more and I'd still have a better time in there.
It was terrible, dude. Like, they gave us the wrong room. My feet hung off the bed. They were rude to my wife.
Wrong room. Whoa. First of all, no
you guys want it, bring it on.
What did you get? Like a handicap room and they didn't give it to you? You have like a psoriasis or something? Like
we paid for a fucking king and we got 2 full beds in our room. I
don't
know how tall you guys are, but my feet hung off the fucking bed. Like, I'm not Taylor's height. So
I was saying I've never had that problem.
It was like, so because of that, I'm not exactly tall, but like it was ridiculous.
Yeah. We call it a half full bed, actually.
The toilet was there in 1960 when they put the damn thing in. The shower, I had to get a fucking cup to wash my hair because the water pressure sucked so bad. And on top of that, they told me that was a lateral move. Fucking Westgate can blow me, dude. Absolutely not. Sorry for the language, but absolutely not. It was terrible. It was a horrible stay.
There. You probably could pay him for that. But I mean,
awful.
I, on the other hand, had a great time. I walked up to the desk. The lady said, "Wow, you look like a man of stature. And would you like to pay $15-something more a night or something for the upgraded room?" And I said, "Of course." Do my feet hang off the bed? She said, "Of course not." So I paid her the 15 extra. My time was great. I had really no complaints. I think more people should go gamble and stay at the Westgate. And also, that was well, until Sam ruined it, that's what I was going for. But now they're never sponsoring us.
Even gambling there sucked. The tables are small. There's no place to put your drinks. It was awful.
There
As
was
someone who
literally-
trusts Vegas, Westgate
literally
sucks.
little cup holders at every singular table.
Yeah,
That's
they're
just
supposed
how
to be
Vegas
in
is
the
set up.
table so that my damn chips can sit there and I don't have to try and do this shit to hold my cards while I'm playing games.
Where do you
terrible.
where do you gamble so normally? Like what, Delaware? Where do you
At
go
Resort
to gamble all the
World.
time?
We went
Resort
to Resort
World,
World.
that
and had a
sounds fake as
fantastic
hell.
time.
Resort
Bro,
World? What is that like? That sounds like
2
like
minutes.
Lawn World.
It's 2 minutes
It sounds
from
like
where we
Lawn
stayed.
World.
Bro,
The number one, we're
amazing.
rated number 5 in customer satisfaction. Like,
I
this
will
is
be
Lawn
paying
World?
the
What is
extra money
that?
to stay at Resort World next time we go.
Reserve-
Bet your
Is-
ass.
God.
Is this a real place?
Yes, I swear to God, Google it.
Was it? They have car beds. They have car beds. Your feet don't hang off of. This sounds like it.
Yeah, dude, it did, and they were super nice to me. So how about
Got a
that?
Benihana. So. Side note, Benihana, man, it's just like I had this old hibachi place back in New York where I lived, and it was like a thing that everybody went to. It's called Arirang, to be specific, or Arirang. And everybody went there, and for some odd reason, I don't know what it is, like it's just like you eat that, it goes right through you, just like mad dash for the bathroom. And I come from a family of 5 children, you know, mom and dad, they did stay together, unfortunately. And so like after we would go and eat there, it was like a mad rush home. And it was just like fighting for the bathrooms. And it was just like, why do we go here every time? We all just come home and like, there's only 3 bathrooms in the house. There's 7 of us. Like, what are we doing here? And so I went to Benihana thinking, surely this was just, I don't know, maybe this place has rats in the kitchen. Nope. Benihana right through me. I literally went up to my room to use the bathroom because, you know, we're at the Westgate and not Resort World. Went right up to my room and just, I texted like my teammates who I was there with. I was like, just pay for me. I'll PayPal you later. Yeah, so Benihana, just don't go there. It goes right through. I think it's the soy and the grease right through me.
Did you guys eat
We
at the
did-
steakhouse in the
I think it's
Westgate?
honestly probably the garlic butter because they throw like 6 pounds on all
Yeah,
that shit.
could be that too. I'm
It's
not like
crazy.
I know you can't tell from this complexion, but I am Italian. But like I'm not white enough. Like I've lived for times and like stayed in Korea, other places overseas. I eat like Indian food all the time, and not like I go to the place and like, do you want white people spicy or Indian people spicy? And I look at him, give him a smile, I wink, and then like the cue cards come and we all laugh, and I get the Indian spicy. So I don't mind spicy food. I don't mind anything like this. I eat a lot of shit, as you can tell, by my ever-growing stature at events. The post-military life hasn't been kind to my body, but yeah, I don't know. Benihana, any of these chain restaurants, just right through me. I don't know what it is.
I hear a lot of people say that military life was a positive experience for their body. To be honest, that's a myth.
What do you mean?
Most of the time, people come back and they're like, "Oh, you know, XYZ sucked. Like this amount of PT, my body like hates me now," or more traumatic things that are less.
Yeah, yeah.
Carly won $3,500 the last night we were there. Was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
He broke even.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, dude, I'm still in the red. Carly won money. Did you not hear me?
Oh,
Wow, you guys got separate bank
Yeah, I was
accounts?
gonna
Really
say,
dropping a lot of
yeah,
trauma
yeah,
on
we
us.
do.
Really
Absolutely.
dropping a lot of trauma on us. Little TMI.
oh my
But
god.
yeah, no, Resort World sucks, and
Anyway,
yeah, we had a
Taylor.
dinner. We had a dinner at this Italian place. It was actually all right.
We hit
For
the
some
gym
reason,
lotto.
they served. Yeah, it was really good. Surprisingly, I don't know what it was in there. We didn't have to sit near Brian Gottlieb and Ethan to our left. We just scurried by them because they were famous. And yeah, it was great. They served us in reverse. It was really weird. They brought us a bunch of food and then like took a bunch of plates
Oh
away.
god, dude, that was so
And then
good.
I was so confused. The lady I think was hitting on me. And ultimately I felt great. But no, yeah, it wasn't a break points dinner. It was just an dinner, if you will. But yeah.
It was a good time. I was glad to see everybody in Vegas, even though I scrubbed out. Okay, well
Yeah,
I think
it was the first time that's every dance.
this is a good time to wrap it up. It's late 30. I got some editing to do.
It's
Um,
11:34
oh okay. Any final thoughts?
Eastern time.
Yeah, quick plug before we actually wrap things up is that for future episodes, obviously it's the first one, so you guys can't have already commented on previous episodes, but we'll like do some questions at the end. So anyone listening on like YouTube in particular, and drop comments at the bottom. Spotify's got the same thing. Or shoot us DMs.
On
One
Truth
of the serve.
Social. On Truth
I was
Social.
gonna say,
The everything app.
please no.
Like, please no, like, don't message us there, but we do have accounts.
Exactly. Yeah. But on Discord, we're all pretty available, pretty responsive. So we're also very easy to find. Everything should be linked down below.
Some of us are super accessible on Discord.
Yeah. Some of us live on Discord. It's crazy. But
Super
anyway,
accessible.
if you guys would drop any questions for anything you guys want to talk about, hear us talk about, even as simple as how's your day going. Happy to talk to you guys.
Politics, music, politics again,
Religion.
geopolitical, religious disputes. Really any of that.
Yeah, those are definitely
And how
we
they
wanna talk
tie
about on there.
into LSS's transgressions against the populace of New Zealand. Rest in peace. Shout out Tog. He knows.
Any further comments as we wrap this up?
Nope.
No, I don't think you're going to top the political genocide over there from Vero. So
I'm going to end it.
Genocide. Whoa, G word. Edit that out.
No.
Holy my God.
The
That's definitely
Patreons get full access. They'll hear the G word.
No. Actually, that's going to be the cold opening. It's just him saying genocide.
People say that I'm a brand risk. This guy's dropping G words.